It is 8:25 p.m. Tuesday, September 27th, and we're chilling. Week 3 is in the books. We have recurring guest Galactic Empire joining us, so everyone just tune in, chill out, and let the good times roll.
Hi, welcome into the DNZ Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Zach, and I'm joined, as always, with my fellow LOC league mates Drake and Nick. And as Nick pointed out, we are joined today with special reoccurring guest, the Galactic Empire. Welcome in, Jared.
Boo.
Welcome in, like I said. Week 3 is in the books. Some teams are starting to be buyers. Some are looking to be sellers. We have some winners and losers, and we're going to be dropping all of the latest news and notes. Drake, why don't you go ahead and give us this week's fantasy in review?
Yes, sir. I'll just start with the injury report, kind of go over what some new injuries that have popped up. Sterling Shepard suffered a season-ending ACL injury Monday night. Turf monsters strike again. He tore his Achilles last year, so the dude just got terrible luck. DeAndre Swift suffered a shoulder sprain. It's officially a left AC sprain. Swift could miss time and likely back week 7. They've got the bye week on week 6. So they might just let him rest up and be back to ready to roll. And on week 7, he injured his right AC in 2021. So he's had this before. So
The new CMC?
Maybe the new Dalvin Cook. Because Dalvin Cook dislocated his shoulder again. Should be okay. He's considered day-to-day. Has dealt with this since high school. Expect him to play with a harness. I think that happened last year where everybody was worried, but he came right back in. People were worried about starting him, and he ended up going off. So I think he's dealt with it in the past. So
I have a plug for dislocating your shoulder. In high school, when I was a freshman, there was a senior who had shoulder issues. He played defensive end, and anytime he went in for a tackle, he would immediately come off the field, go to the trainer, and pop his shoulder back into place. Like, you would see the trainer go, and then he would come in the very next play, and then as soon as he made a tackle again or it popped out, he would just come out, come back on. And I would see him do that 15, 20 times a game. It was disgusting.
Seems
I don't know how you
team
do that.
Should be investigated.
Yeah, so Dalvin may miss one game, but other than that, I wouldn't be too worried long term. David Montgomery injured his ankle and is considered day-to-day. They thought it was maybe his knee as well, but it was just an ankle. It was officially a low ankle sprain. He's actually got a 50-50 shot to play week 4. Should be back week 5. So I was pretty excited for Khalil Herbert for the next few weeks, but it looks like it might only be 1 week. I think Khalil Herbert's the better running back anyways. We'll talk about him later. Joe Mixon injures his ankle, is a little sore after the game. He didn't actually play at all in the fourth quarter, and he's got a short week this week as he plays on Thursday against the Dolphins. But he's on track to play, but he is questionable for week 4 on Thursday. And Michael Thomas back with the foot injuries. He's got a foot/toe injury.
Back at it again.
It's not considered serious, but something to monitor moving forward. Landry is also banged up with foot soreness, so it's Chris Olave season. We saw it today. We'll talk about him as well, but Chris Olave, baby. Jalen Waddle dealing with
bench.
Well, not anymore, I'd hope.
Hopefully.
But Jalen Waddle's he's dealing with a groin injury. He was a non-participant in practice on Monday. He also has that short week planned on Thursday night. He will be questionable for week 4. And I think it's possible he could miss. We'll just have to pay close attention as Thursday night's not too far away. And T. Higgins dealing with a toe injury as well. He's questionable for week 4. Not too worried about that one. A.J. Green dealing with a bone bruise. Might miss week 4. So maybe Hollywood Brown's going to see a ton of targets yet again. Greg Dortch, is he startable? We'll talk about that. Mac Jones, pretty severe high ankle sprain. I think the x-rays were negative. Doesn't need surgery, apparently, on the first opinion.
That picture was a crime.
He was being so extra, though. I'm sorry. He was rolling around on the fucking ground, crying, mommy.
Did you see that picture of him going to the locker room?
Oh, yeah, carrying him.
Dragged off Omaha Beach on D-Day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Grow up.
Yeah,
Can't hurt that much.
His timetable is TBD. He's probably going to miss a couple games, and I guess he's wanting a second opinion. He maybe wants surgery, actually, and the Patriots don't want him to have surgery so they can rush him back. So I think they're kind of at odds with it at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And then a couple not fantasy relevant guys, but certainly football relevant, especially for the Los Angeles Chargers. Their left tackle, Rashad Slater, first round pick last year, maybe
Huge loss.
injured. He might miss most of the season. Actually, it's a season-ending injury. Actually, now that I read all the way through this, but it was a biceps injury. Their wide receiver Slayton tore his ACL, so they're both out. So not good for the Chargers, especially when they're trending down at this point.
I want to bring something up about that. They were down 38-10 in the fourth
At
quarter.
home.
And they left all of these guys
I know
in
how
the game. You have Justin Herbert, who's already banged up, and you have him running around in the pocket without his starting left tackle. Like, this is a little extreme if you ask me. That's bad management it's just a very poorly ran game.
I agree. I heard Staley, that's their head coach's name, right?
Yeah.
Last name Staley. He was saying that Herbert he was being a tough guy, wanted to stay in the game and just get a little bit of momentum to go into the next week. I think that's what he told reporters, and I can't believe he kept him in there. That's when you say, hey, bud, I appreciate it. Thank you for that type of leadership you're bringing our team, but come over
There's
here to the
8 minutes
sideline.
left, and we're down 27.
Put fucking Chase Daniel in. Give him some run here at the end of the game in case he needs to fucking play next weekend.
Yeah, poorly
And
managed.
a few guys banged up, but did return to action, but will be questionable this week. Amon-Ra, ankle injury. Garrett Wilson, rib injury. Tua, he's got a back injury, I think. It looked like he maybe had a concussion, but they ruled it as a back injury.
Back injury that has concussion-like symptoms. It seems legit.
And apparently the NFLPA is launching an investigation on how he came back into the game based on how he was fucking wobbling and falling over as he got up after the hit. So
Rigged. NFL rigged.
that'll be interesting to see if there's any penalties there for Miami. But Tua's doing everything he can, apparently, to play Thursday. So I would expect him to play. And Dallas Goedert also left the game, but the injury's unknown. He ended up coming back. So nothing to worry about there. And I'll just run through some quick news. Zach Wilson expected to return in Week 4 against the Steelers.
You think he learned anything from Flacco in his off time?
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
I think Flacco's probably learned more from Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Some game, some mom game.
Yeah, and Mike Evans is back from his suspension for Week 4. Keenan Allen's expected to return as well. And Chiefs released kicker Matt Amendola and are signing former Jaguars
Get rid of
kicker
him.
Matthew Wright to the practice squad. Insurance for Harrison Butt kicker, as he's got that ankle injury. He's missed the last 2 games.
So we really don't want to roll with Justin Reed then. That was all just for fun for a little bit there. Just
It's
some
break glass in
storylines.
case of emergency type deal.
Yeah.
This looks like an emergency to me. He had to have been better than Matt Amendola.
Well,
I'm just
we have
saying.
no idea if Butker can come back this week or not. Like, we signed him to the practice squad, which we can easily elevate him if Butker's not fucking playing. But seems like Harrison's got a shot to maybe play this week.
Sure hope so.
And
Chiefs really needed some special teams play last week. They needed a lot of things, but
Yep. So that's all the news and notes that we've got after Week 3. And I've got a Rookie of the Week. I just want to give a quick shout out before we do Nick's fastest 2 minutes on the LOC League. My Rookie of the Week this week is Chris Olave. Dude had 9 receptions on 13 targets for 147 yards. He didn't end up getting into the end zone, but he still had 23.7 fantasy points. He's the wide receiver 22 on the season. And with the banged up wide receiver core in New Orleans, he's that new wide receiver 1. And we know how Jameson Winston likes to sling the ball around. So Olave showing out as a rookie, showing off that first round pick was worthy. And I think he's got to be in your starting lineups from here on out.
I mean, I'm really not surprised with the last name like Olave. I mean, where else in the NFL could he play other than New Orleans, right? I mean, that's just right up his alley.
It does fit. I agree.
Oh, completely. They got all the French shit going on. Is Olave French? Galactic Empire?
Olave, I'm pretty sure it's Spanish.
Really?
Olave?
I have no
Well,
idea.
We'll look it up.
There was French
We'll
and
fact-
Spanish
we'll-
conquistadors, so same thing.
Okay. Yeah, you're directionally correct. I'll give you credit there. But no, I think that's very true. You look at the 2 other guys he's fighting for space with that wide receiver room. It's 2 of the most arguably injury-prone wide receivers that have been in the NFL the past 5 years, in Landry and Michael Thomas, who I honestly forgot was even in the NFL still.
I think even if they're healthy, he's the wide receiver 1. He's the best wide receiver there. So, yeah, Chris Olave, fire him up. Looking real good. Got a couple honorable mentions that are here as well. Drake London keeps doing his thing. Damian Pierce, he's finally taken over that backfield. Rex Burkhead, who? And then Romeo Dubs, or is it Dobbs? I like Dubs better,
like
but
Dubs.
apparently it's Dubs.
I like Dubs.
Maybe we'll just rock with Yeah, Dubs. We can say Dubs. He can correct us if he'd like. But Romeo Dubs, dude, he needed to be the wide receiver one there. And I think he's gonna maybe have that role for the rest of the season. I know they still have Lazard and Randall Cobb,
Watson.
and I mean
Watkins is on the IR.
Watson didn't play last week, so he needed to show out, and he did. And I think they're going to keep giving him opportunities, and him and Aaron Rodgers are only going to continue to grow that relationship.
I really think all these rookies are kind of showing out.
I think people underrated
Garrett Wilson,
this rookie.
He's doing very well.
Wide receiver rookies. Oh my gosh.
You probably won't see something like this again anytime soon. There were so many huge names, and we're just seeing why right now. Why they all went in the first round.
Wasn't there 6 first rounds? Is that number correct?
I couldn't tell you the
I think
number,
there was
but
6.
All of those dudes drafted in the first round are all fire right now, and then you're seeing some later round dudes turning up also.
London, Olave,
Garrett
Jahan.
Wilson, Jahan Dotson,
Traylon Burks.
That's 5.
The guy from Alabama who's hurt with Detroit.
Williams.
Jamison Williams.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yeah, that is
6.
I totally
6 of
forgot
them.
about
Look at
him,
us,
too.
guys.
Wow, good call, Drake.
So
Yes, sir.
yeah, all of them are doing well. I think Traylon Burks is still trying to find his feet there. Tennessee's really just kind of a dumpster fire right now. They just don't know what they want to be on offense. Do we think we see their quarterback, the rookie quarterback, what's his name?
Malik Willis.
Do we think we see him?
I tell you what, he did not look good against the Bills the couple times he did get a chance to play. He fumbled in his first opening drive that he got to play. He was, you could argue, driving them down the field and looking pretty good, but it's also tough to play when your first game you're coming into your team's down 35 to arguably the best team in the league.
Also, do we think we see Kenny Pickett come in with
Oh,
Pittsburgh?
yeah. I've got thoughts on that after
Down
as
there.
fast as 2 minutes.
Because I also think maybe Desmond has a shot. I mean, if you look at fucking Mariota, I mean, he's doing the job, but
Yeah, he hasn't been terrible.
he's just a turnover machine. Let me pull this bonkers stuff up. 2 fumbles, 1 loss, 1 interception, and then 1 rushing touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, 230 yards. Like, if you have the best pass-catching young tight end and you have a first-round wide receiver, you need to be looking to find the ball downfield, and it just looks like Mariota's not getting it done. But
Fair.
going into that, talking about our rookies, it's time to go into Nick's fastest 2 minutes.
All right, Nick, you ready, man?
Always
Go ahead.
Born ready. In our first matchup, we have the War Boys headed into battle against the Sunshine Squad. The War Boys' favorite saying, "We lost the battle, but we'll win the war," is starting to look like a, "oh shit, we might lose the war," as the Sunshine Squad blinded the War Boys in Week 3. Zeke put the Doritos down, and Young Hoku still can't see, but the emergence of Trevor looks like an Easter Island head Lawrence was too much, as Nick Chubb keeps the Sunshine Squad nice and hard. Sunshine Squad 152, War Boys 145. Thank you, Jared. Moving on to our next showdown, we had Lance Refrigeration squaring up against the Ramondra Raptors with another matchup close to our podcast home. Trey Lance was again seen overthrowing strippers instead of playing football, but it didn't matter, as small man Kyler Murray connects with small man Hollywood Brown and creates their own small man porn category. Justin, get that fucking needle away from me, Herbert was a dud, and Justin Jefferson looked more like just off me now, Jefferson, as the dinosaurs everywhere contemplate pre-extinction suicide. I can't handle you guys. Lance Refrigeration 158, Ramondra Raptors 136. Moving on, taking center stage, projected champion JT and company run into the buzzsaw that is the Jamario Bros. The formerly known as Grand Godfrey Ones had everything cooking as social media lists Zero Dark Burrow decides football is fun. West Coast Cup and East Coast Cheetah spent their weekend questioning who killed Biggie and Tupac instead of scoring fantasy points. If it wasn't for the Arrowhead Choppers existing, I wouldn't believe anyone could score so few points. Jamario Bros 165, JT and Company 104. In our next matchup, the worst team in our league has been downgraded to the worst team maybe of all time as the RDC 22s pummeled the Arrowhead Choppers. Emperor Kendrick Lamar Llama Jackson again showered himself in glory, forcing the Choppers to bend the knee. Romeo and Juliet Dub stepped up big after coming down from Aaron Rodgers' LSD, and the RDC 22s called off the dogs against an inferior opponent. The Choppers can't do anything right, and I'm sorry we all have to witness such behavior. The rise and fall documentary for the Arrowhead Choppers won't be very long, as there hasn't been a rise. RDC 22, 145. Arrowhead Choppers, 107. Rounding it all off, we had a nail-biter as the Galactic Empire attempted to regain lost territory against the London Bridge. Empires from space and England clashed as both sides sought to rise from the ashes of Week 2. By a 2-point margin, it was the Bridge proclaiming, "We have rebuilt," blowing up the Empire's Death Star for a third time. Maybe they'll make another movie about it. CMC remembers White Men Can't Jump, and Joe Mixon was probably bashing some poor girl's face in at a sandwich shop. The Bridge is back. London Bridge, 150. Galactic Empire, 148. And that's it again.
They're your Week 3 matchups in LOC. Very nice, Nick.
You're welcome.
Justin, just off me. Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, just off me now.
Jesus, that's a good one.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, he's been a bust. I'd be disappointed if I was an owner.
Yeah, let's get into Week 3 a little bit and just go matchup by matchup here and kind of talk about who played well, maybe who didn't play well. First matchup, Steelers-Browns. Nick Chubb, fantastic day. He didn't quite go crazy, but he had 17.3 fantasy points. He's currently the running back 1 in our LOC fantasy league by our scoring metrics. Another guy that really showed out was Amari Cooper. 7 receptions, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. Had 23.1 fantasy points. Who knew that Brissett was going to be able to deal to a guy like Cooper and actually make him fantasy relevant? Because I did not see that coming whatsoever. And finally, I mean, David Njoku. That's like the one guy that people have been saying.
You love David Njoku.
Because apparently Brissett likes to hyper-target tight end position, and he just really hasn't done it till now. But David Njoku had 9 receptions, 89 yards, and 1 touchdown for 23 fucking fantasy points. He's currently the tight end 9 in fantasy, and he is also not rostered in LOC. I repeat, not rostered. Top 10 tight end. And my last stud from the game was Deontay Johnson. He had 8 receptions, 84 yards for 16 fantasy points. He's going to start getting touchdowns eventually. It needs to be Kenny Pickett season soon. I really want to talk about that a little bit more. But Deontay Johnson, I feel like every catch he has is right along the sideline. There's never any yards after catch stuff going on. So I think he's always going to get a lot of receptions. But I need to see some touchdowns. I mean, this offense just isn't scoring a lot of touchdowns. There's not a ton of touchdowns going around. And it's because they've got a shit quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky who went 20 of 32 for 207 yards and a rushing touchdown, which still opted him with 15 fantasy points. But Trubisky, it's got to be Kenny Pickett season, right? When does Kenny Pickett get put in? Please, I need to know.
Well, I mean, they might as well tank this whole year, even if they're not trying to, but you just leave Mitch out there, let them suck ass, and get a good draft pick to pair with Trubisky next year. I mean, they're not trying to win the Super Bowl by any means this year, so might as well slow roll it, let him chill, get a nice draft pick for him. That's kind of the way I see it.
You really think Mike Tomlin is going to tank for a better draft pick?
I don't think he'll tank. I think he'll do the best he can do with what he's got, and that's
but if he's
not
got
a lot.
If he's got a better quarterback, though.
Is he better? No one knows.
I'd argue that he has really
Trubisky.
good weapons around him currently.
Can I get a stat check? How many turnovers did Mitchell Trubisky have through the first 3 weeks?
Through the
Well, he
first
had more than
3
Kenny Pickett,
weeks?
so-
To the season. Well, of course, but my argument for something I think is why they're considering not having the quarterback change is because he hasn't been winning them games, but he also hasn't been losing them games. Like, people who are Saints fans could point to Jameis and his turnover fest, or some of the players.
He's got one interception.
One interception. So
I'm
I
a
think that
big
is one thing
fan.
that's helping him so far.
I'm a big fan of letting dudes chill for a year when it comes to quarterback. The list of dudes that sat for at least 1 year before starting is a list you want to be on if you pull that up. First round QBs that sat for a year, it's a nice looking list.
He doesn't have a game with more than 210 yards passing.
Yeah, he hasn't scored more than 15 points yet this season. They played on Thursday night. It was prime time. Watching that game was horrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
And it's frustrating because, you see guys like Claypool open downfield. You see guys like George Pickens open downfield. And Trubisky doesn't trust himself enough to make those throws, or he just doesn't see them, which is another issue in and of itself.
The offensive line is garbage as well.
That is one thing I agree with maybe Nick saying tank. Maybe not necessarily tank, but you can find good linemen in the middle of the first round. Obviously, you can find better ones.
No, I agree with what you're saying, Zach, because let's sit here and ask ourselves the question. Are the Steelers going to beat out the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bengals for a division championship? Are they going to win a wild card with how stacked the AFC is this
Not
year?
with Trubisky.
So I don't think with Kenny Pickett either. And I get what you guys are saying is why not put him in and let him build the reps, build the rapport with his teammates. But I don't think the Steelers are going anywhere this year.
I think we'll see him this season. I just no idea when. I'm starting to get a little worried about Najee Harris. He's currently the running back 21 on the season. That's not really, even in redraft, that's not what you're drafting him as. You're drafting him as a top 10 running back.
Top 5.
So he's touchdown dependent right now. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he's worthless. So worried about Najee. We'll see how it develops. Outside of Deontay Johnson, no other receiver or tight end had more than 3 receptions. Claypool had 1 reception. I think Pickens also had 1 reception
Pickens
as well.
had his OBJ catch.
That catch was
reception.
That catch was nutty. I feel like the announcers didn't do anything to hype it up, but that shit was crazy.
I think it was better than the Odell Beckham Jr.
I agree.
catch that put him on the map.
He was horizontal.
Yeah, he was
had to
sideways.
reach back.
It was crazy.
The only thing that made the Odell catch better was it was a fucking touchdown, and he was getting pass interfered with hard. But it's right up there. I put it in the same category almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Pat Freiermuth only had 2 receptions. So this was, they were a pass hat. Trubisky threw the ball 32 times. That's not a ton. But Deontay Johnson, he's going to continue to command that target share. And I think we said in the offseason, pretty sure that when you see Pickens come in and get drafted by the Steelers, we were saying Claypool. This is going to hurt Claypool more than anybody. And you're seeing it right now. But that's enough talk
Canadian
on that Thursday
Claypool.
night game. Next game on the block here, the Chiefs-Colts game.
We can
go ahead.
This was as Jared would put, a rock fight.
Yeah, nobody was really fantasy relevant in this. I'm willing to throw it away as a Chiefs fan and just move on and learn from it. Travis Kelce had a decent game. He should have caught that game-clinching touchdown, and he would have been fantastic. He's currently tied in 2 on the season, which is Travis Kelce stuff going on.
This game was peak NFL rigged.
I'm starting to worry about where the fuck Sky Moore is as well. Just saying, I drafted him in the rookie draft, so starting to get a little worried about Sky Moore. Maybe I shouldn't say that to my league mates if I wanted to try to sell, but I don't really give a fuck. Chiefs lose that one. We'll bounce back. Ain't worried
Sky
about
Moore
nothing.
Was sky high, trying to feel
and
that
then
punt.
I think there's some stuff to take away from this Texans-Bears game here as well. The Bears ended up beating the Texans 23-20. Damian Pierce and the running back on the other side, Khalil Herbert, are the stories from this game here. Damian Pierce is taking over that backfield. Rex Burkhead's donezo. Damian Pierce had 20 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 2 receptions for 21 yards, 16.1 fantasy points. He's currently the running back 32, and he's only going to keep climbing.
Yeah, Damian really was that was probably the hottest offseason take that everyone had, and it's coming to fruition. So takers everywhere are rejoicing.
We were big on him the entire offseason, in my opinion. I feel like we were talking up because there is no one in that
it was
backfield.
Rex Burkhead.
And then same with Tyler Algier. I think we were big on him as well. Cordell Patterson's obviously doing well.
Yeah, he's shutting everybody up again. Yep.
So, but yeah, Damian Pierce, definitely a good pick. Especially, I think he was drafted in the late second round in our draft?
I think it was a 10th overall pick.
10th overall,
was he
because
10th?
I had him circled with my early second round pick, and Nate was smart enough to
The
reach a
Arrowhead
little higher for him.
Choppers,
Would you trade?
they did something right.
Would you trade a
fascinating.
2023 first round pick for Damian Pierce?
Probably.
I had the offer from Nate 3 weeks ago, and I said no.
I would say no as well.
Because
I'm on the no side.
I just didn't know. Obviously, last week would definitely changed my opinion a little bit on it, but I'm still no because
The Arrowhead Chop is trying to trade away a stud running back.
he's
Sounds right.
trying to trade away his own team right now is what he's doing.
I mean, there's not much
Nick's
going on there.
giving him a death sentence. So,
Have you seen that team?
and then
Pause the pod. Go look at the Choppers.
pause it.
Okay, resume.
My only rebuttal to that is if you're looking to win now this year, I mean, you got to look at this schedule for the Houston Texans. They go play at home against the Chargers, whose defense is now decimated, and they have a horrible run defense to begin with. They go to Jacksonville, and maybe Jacksonville's good, question mark. We're going to get to that a little bit later.
Oh, they're good.
And then
A-Rab
Las
money.
Vegas, Tennessee, Philadelphia, Giants, Washington, Miami, Cleveland, Dallas, Kansas City. Who knows about us? Tennessee again, Jacksonville again, Indianapolis. Like, that's a pretty soft schedule when you think about it. Obviously, it's still early in the season. We don't know. Teams are still working out some kinks. But if he's going to be the lead back and that's all they've got, because Davis Mills, is that his name?
Yeah.
Not getting it done, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably my biggest concern is just the overall offense. It's a bottom-tier offense. He's not going to get a lot of red zone opportunities, not a lot of scoring opportunities in this offense for anybody. You just want it because there's going to be volume. He's going to see carries. Like he does stuff in the receiving game. But, I mean, we've mentioned it. There's nothing stopping the Texans from just drafting another guy next season. Like what just happened to Michael Carter. It happens all the time. Like his job is not locked and loaded like a guy like Breece Hall is. Or even Clyde. Clyde's got a more secure, maybe. So maybe a hot
No,
take.
he doesn't. 7 rushes, 0 yards, and a rushing touchdown.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about Clyde as well. But Khalil Herbert on the other side for the Chicago Bears. That dude is better than David Montgomery, and he's been showing it the first 3 weeks, and we finally got to see it. Unfortunately, it came about because David Montgomery got injured. But Khalil Herbert finished with 20 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions, and 12 yards, 30.9 fantasy points. After that huge performance, we're through 3 weeks, but he's currently RB7. And he's the new running back 1 in Chicago. Hopefully it's for more than a week, but it looks like Monty's injury isn't that serious. But Khalil Herbert, he's a must start, right? He is for me.
No, yeah. I would definitely say I think the RB1 on shitty teams has usually turned into a lot of fantasy points. If you just go back through the years when these shitty teams have one guy, it really works out. I'm talking about James Robinson that 1 year. I'm going to throw it all the way back to Jamal Charles.
CMC Panthers.
CMC. Great example.
Joe Mixon when the Bengals were bad.
Great example. So RB1 on a shitty team when there's no one else in the backfield is maybe someone we need to start isolating. Galactic Empire, you were wanting to say something?
I would just like to ask this question. Is Khalil Herbert really good, or is the Houston Texans run defense really bad?
It could be both.
Definitely
It could
a
be
little
both.
bit of both. But, I mean, I think Herbert is talented, and I think he's going to show that. I mean, when he replaced Monty last year, I wish I had it pulled up here, but he had like over 100 yards in like every single game he played as a starter.
Definitely looked good, yeah.
And I think he fits the system a bit better, to be honest. And we've got some duds in this game here as well. So sticking with the Bears, I mean, if I'm a Justin Fields owner, I'm worried. He had 17 pass attempts, completed 8 of them, 106 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 27.7 quarterback rating. He had less than 5 points fantasy-wise. He's the quarterback 30 on the season. So even as your super flex, your second quarterback, like Justin Fields is a nightmare right now. You hope it'll get better, and I think it will. I mean, it's Dynasty. No one's going to want to buy Justin Fields from you. And then staying at Chicago, Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney. Cole Kmet is the tight end 51 on the season.
I didn't know there was 51 tight ends in the NFL.
Darnell Mooney is the wide. You'll like this one. Darnell Mooney is the wide receiver 112 on the season. So just absolutely disgusting. And a fun stat is Equinemius St. Brown, Amon Ross' brother. He leads the team in receiving yards, and he has more receiving yards than Mooney and Kmet combined. And he's got a total of 77 total receiving yards.
Dude, for the second time this year, you saw that red zone action go from Amon-Ra to Equinemius in back-to-back. Like, these dudes did their thing.
That's 2 weeks in a row that's happened?
Yeah. I don't know if it might be 2 weeks in a row, but yes, it was the second time So Mr. St. Brown out there, he is a happy dude. I wonder if he's watching Red Zone.
They got some shine on Hard Knocks. So, I mean, he's already, he's got to be over the moon with his 2 kids playing in the NFL. And then my last dud of this game is Brandon Cooks, and I've got him rostered in LOC. Starting to get worried. He had 2 receptions for 22 yards on 7 targets. I mean, he's the wide receiver 1 there. I just don't think it's an offense where you really want the wide receiver 1, essentially. He really did well last season, but at this point, he's just not doing what he did last year. He's currently wide receiver 47, so might be riding my bench for a few weeks till he can figure something out. But that's enough for the Texans-Bears. We got the Raiders-Titans. Nick or Zach, you want to talk about this matchup here?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No worries. So, yeah, Titans 24, Raiders 22. Another brutal showing. Raiders... Everyone was really hype on the Raiders earlier this year.
I was part of that bandwagon. I was on that bandwagon for sure.
0-3 now? Yikes.
I think they might be the only team that hasn't won this season.
Correct. That is true. They are the only team that is 0-3. Because you got to
that
sprinkle in
is
those
crazy.
ties.
I've got a note here. Confirmed. Devontae Adams, just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I mean, he might be fantasy relevant and be dominating from that aspect, but boy, I thought that Raiders offense was going to be putting up points and lighting up the field with Josh McDaniels in town and everybody, Derek Carr's old homeboy in town, and it just has not turned into dividends in the win column for him so far.
Yeah. I don't know if Josh McDaniels just isn't a good coach.
And that very well could be, Zach. It very well could, because you would have thought, looking at it going into the season, that all the pieces were there for him to succeed.
I don't know what it is. Everyone from that section of the Bill Belichick coaching tree, like, they all just get the benefit of the doubt for being a part of that coaching tree. And obviously Andy Reid does it, but at least Doug Peterson won a fucking Super Bowl.
So did Harbaugh.
Harbaugh has the guy from Chicago, Matt Nagy. He didn't do very well, but I mean, or he got ran out of town, but he took the team to the playoff, back-to-back years?
One coach of the year.
And coach of the year.
Crazy to say out loud.
I just think that Chicago Bears is a poorly run organization, but at least, Andy Reid's coaching tree has more girth to it, I believe. It's more grown out, and Bill Belichick's is just
deep
garbage. But going into fantasy, Derek Carr, 26 of 44 for 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He's currently QB number 12.
Yeah, not bad, Derek.
Bad. No. That's perfect for what you want if you're looking for a super flex kind of guy. Josh Jacobs, 13 carries, 66 yards, and a fumble. Looks like he was sick during the game. Played through an illness, but 13.7 fantasy points. He might be looking for a new home next season. They didn't pick up his fifth-year player option.
Practice squad home.
Yep. Mac Hollins. Who's this guy? 8 receptions.
Yeah, I'd
158 yards, 1 touchdown, 10 total targets. Had almost 30 fantasy points, and he's currently wide receiver 20.
Yeah,
But
Drake asked me the other day. It was like Mac Hollins, and I literally was like, I don't know who that is. I've never heard of him before.
and we watch a lot of college football.
I had never heard of this guy. The only reason I knew of this guy and even what he looked like is because he was in that little video of when Hunter Renfrow ordered the Uber and it had Devontae Adams in there.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all squeezed in there. And I was like, who the fuck is that other guy? And then now that was Mac Hollins, man.
That's him.
He took advantage of no Renfrow playing.
Right,
And
so it was just a boom week.
Right, he's most likely going to be back. So be careful adding him in your redraft leagues with Renfrow back. But what a monster performance.
Devontae Adams doing Devontae Adams semi kind of things, but 5 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown, 14 points. I mean, that's kind of what your baseline, bare minimum you're wanting out of Devontae Adams or a guy like Justin Jefferson,
Right,
Jamar Chase.
You need a little bit more, though. Come on, Devontae.
You need a little bit more yardage, but I mean, 5 receptions and the touchdown really help out with that. Darren Waller, 3 receptions, 22 yards, 5.2 fantasy points.
I think he's
had
relapsing.
it down.
He's still the tight end 5, though.
I've been on this take for 3 years now. I think he's relapsing.
You can't be relapsing for 3 years, but enough about the Raiders. We'll jump on in over to the Titans. Ryan Tannehill, 19 of 27, 264 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a rushing touchdown to kind of save the day for him. He had a 51.1 QBR. Yikes. 18.76 fantasy points, QB 20. That's definitely on your low end. QB 2 for super flex guys. Derrick Henry kind of had Just a Derrick Henry day. 20 carries, 85
Large man.
yards.
Yeah, finally.
1 touchdown. Averaged 4.3 yards a carry. Starting to see some of that wear and tear maybe, but he did get 25.3 fantasy points. He's currently listed at running back 15 in our league with our scoring.
I wonder if see him make some sort of video with Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown, just so you could see the full scale of how large and small these dudes can be.
Yeah, what were you saying, Drake?
I was wondering if so Derrick Henry, he's grown out his dreads some. Is that weighing him down, or does he, should he have more dreadlock power?
Dude, have you seen his dreadlocks though? Those things look like they weigh 20 pounds.
I don't even think it's dreadlock.
Fucking...
Because he just has like the ponytail, or does he put
see,
it in a hairnet?
He looks like he's running around with a damn like thick ass chains, like prison chains.
If you own him in Dynasty after this performance, you were stressed in the first 2 weeks. Like, now he's done something. Get rid of him. Get a first-round draft pick out of him.
Look for someone trying to win now.
Maybe I'll give it to you. Who's got Henry?
I think
Graham?
I think we solved
Probably.
it. His hair weighs too much.
I don't know. We'll look at that.
Last bit of news here. Robert Woods, 4 receptions, 85 yards on 9 targets. So you're seeing the volume there with Robert Woods, but only 12.5 fantasy points, a good flex position. Currently slotted at wide receiver 63. And then Treylon Burks, 1 reception, 13 yards, 1 carry for 8 yards, 3.10 fantasy points.
Zach, I'll give you a second-round pick for Treylon Burks.
You can fuck right off. He did lead the team in routes ran, so maybe he's seeing a breakout, getting a little bit more use. The weather's getting a little bit colder. Maybe the asthma's not going to be affecting him as much. We'll see. But any other comments or concerns, points on that Raiders-Titans game?
Nope, I still believe in Burks. I think the breakout's coming.
Yeah.
If I didn't tell this to Zach or write this down, I probably shouldn't even put this here. But I believe in Burks, and so do you.
I watch it. I mean, he's just chilling on a taxi squad, which if you're in a dynasty format with that's where he should be until he has a week like Chris Olave, like Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, if you're in other dynasty leagues, even redraft, go fucking get Treylon Burks on your roster.
Yeah.
He might even be on the waivers. Shit.
Going on to the next game, Bills and Dolphins, score of 21-19 in favor of the Dolphins.
This might have been the best game on the weekend.
It was the best game. I have some points here, maybe not necessarily fantasy will be fantasy relevant, but talking about the Bills defense. But kind of just running through here, Josh Allen, 42 of 63. Jesus,
holy
volume.
Shit. 63 pass attempts. It's going to be like this whole year.
Oh, yeah. 400 yards. 2 TDs, 8 carries for 47 yards, finished with 23.7 fantasy points, and our scoring. QB2.
That's it? Wow.
It's 4-point passing touchdown in LOC, if you didn't know already.
So Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things. Maybe should have lost points for ripping off that guy's helmet there at the bottom of the pile.
That was interesting.
But
he had to have provoked Josh Allen to do that.
Well, yeah, and he did get flagged for it, so...
Yeah, I mean, you don't retaliate. That's when you get caught, and that's when the penalty gets thrown.
Right.
So Josh Allen needs to keep his cool a bit, bud.
It did crack me up seeing...
He's angry Josh.
Seeing Tua at the end of the game, like, walk over and give Josh Allen the big, like, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes hug. It's like...
Didn't Josh Allen, like, have his head, like, on his
looked
shoulder
like
and
he was,
everything?
Like, coddling him.
Yeah, it was like pouting.
Like, Tua...
It's like you just lost
different.
a Super Bowl.
Why'd you do that to me?
If I'm Josh, I'm like, get the fuck away from me, Tua. I'm Josh Allen, you're Tua. You've had 3 good weeks, and I've been out here for 3 whole years, and I don't need you coming over here telling me, oh, you played so hard. You tried so hard, Josh.
Tua is what, 11-0 now against quarterbacks with the letter O in their name.
He's
What?
won 11 games.
That's PMT's favorite
What?
stat to throw out there. 2-on, expect us. I mean, I don't know why you're not a card-carrying member yet, Nick, because you need to become one. This man is lighting
What's that
it up,
supposed to mean?
and I think he's going to continue to do it with the dynamic offense they have in Miami.
Yeah, they really kind of put it together, and they got 2 speed demons. They've got a decent tight end, good running backs. So
Yeah, there was a couple other studs in this game. Devin Singletary. Dude he's looking
He's
really
a surprise
nice.
of the year. He is a surprise of the year so far.
They're finally giving him work. He had 9 carries for 13 yards. Which that doesn't jump off the stat sheet, but it's the Buffalo Bills. They're passing the ball. Singletary had 9 receptions for 78 yards and 1 touchdown. He got 24.1 fantasy points. He's a top 24 running back so far this season, and he's doing what people thought James Cook would do.
yeah, he's definitely developed as a route running
James Cook isn't even.
running back,
I didn't
so-
even write anything down about James Cook.
It looks like they drafted him, and Devin Singletary's like, wow, I better learn how to run my routes a little bit better.
Imagine
be
using a
better in
top
pass
5
protection.
rookie pick on James Cook.
Ooh.
Wouldn't be me.
Burn.
And Isaiah McKenzie also looked really good. And he's maybe stealing the show a little bit from Gabe Davis, dare I say it. Isaiah McKenzie, 7 receptions, 76 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets. He did have 1 carry for 6 yards, 21 points, wide receiver 33 on the season. Isaiah McKenzie had a real nice game, but it was at the spare, like Gabe Davis couldn't do anything because McKenzie was the guy out there doing stuff. And Gabe Davis had 3 receptions for 37 yards on 6 targets, 6.7 points. Gabe Davis, the wide receiver, 55. He's missed 1 week.
He missed a game.
I was going to
he
ask
missed
if
a game.
he was injured week 2.
He's
right?
missed 1 game,
Okay.
but Gabe
Still.
Davis, I'm worried. And then
Tua, this stat line's really interesting. I'm going to jump between Tua and Jalen Waddle here. 13 of 18. He only threw the ball 18 times, and they still put up the 21 points. It's really
I
very
know, that is
shocking.
crazy.
186 yards, 1 touchdown. He did leave the game, like we said, with a back injury with concussion-like symptoms. He did return 11.44 fantasy. So we mentioned he had 186 yards passing, 102 of them to Jalen Waddle. I think it's safe to say
on 4 receptions.
I think it's safe to say Jalen Waddle's getting his own in this offense. I don't know if teams are just dialing in on Tyreek and that's leaving Jalen Waddle just wide open.
As we predicted.
But definitely good. Tyreek Hill, 2 receptions, 33 yards on 4 targets.
Oof.
So he's still wide receiver 5. He had a bad week.
And Tyreek
but,
does that. He even did that in Kansas City.
Yeah. So
And Mike Gesicki didn't do a whole lot either. He had a touchdown last week, so maybe you put him in your lineup this week chasing touchdowns.
yeah.
1 reception, 6 yards. Not good. Outside the top 20 tight ends.
Jumping in here to the Lions and Vikings. Vikings won this one 28-24. Jared Goff looking semi-decent. 25 of 41, 277 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception, 15
Galactic Empire
points.
likes it.
QB 11, so not starting quarterback material, but definitely super flex. DeAndre Swift, he got hurt, did he not?
Yep, he did end up leaving the game, and it was fairly early on. I don't know when exactly it was, but he only had 7 carries for 31 yards, 3 receptions, 15 yards, 7.6 fantasy points. I mean, he's still running back 4 on the season. So, I mean, he's really only a dud because he got hurt.
So Jamal Williams came in and filled those shoes real quick.
Oh, yeah, on the flip side, Jamal Williams, he was that motherfucker.
20 carries, 87 yards, 2 TDs, 2 receptions, 20 yards. Did finish with 25 fantasy points. He's currently RB6 in our league right now. And
insane.
Just a fun fact here. Games where Jamal gets at least 15 touches, he averages a total of 19 and a half touches and almost 100 yards and 17 fantasy points.
What?
So definitely a very good
think that
replacement
makes
they
sense.
have.
Yeah, he's locked and loaded for 15-plus carries or targets with no DeAndre Swift. So I think Jamal Williams, he's a set it and forget it maybe in your flex spot.
Jamal was that dude. Remember, I was making fun at the beginning of the year because he had that video where he was like crying in Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
and
you're
I was
like, he's gonna
this
get
dude's out here
memed.
crying. This is
You're like,
this is a meme.
He's going to get memed to death. And he's just out there
Nope,
showing
just
heart.
me. I'm
Being
the meme.
the rock of the team. Just being the fantastic leader for the organization. And you just talking shit on him. I
Yeah,
love Jamal
yeah,
Williams.
That's
He's fucking
what
hilarious.
I do. That's what I do.
I wish I had him on
Normally
a team.
It blows right back in my face.
Moving on
Example
here.
38.
Yeah, everybody else
I'm
really
on-
had a mediocre. I mean, let's just talk about the dud. We don't
we can go.
Everybody
to
else was
just
pretty
off
Jay
mediocre.
Jetta. I own Jay Jetta. 3 receptions, 14 yards on 6 targets. I don't know what is going on, if teams are really just triple teaming him, giving him the Tyreek treatment, if him and Kirk just aren't on the same page. But, I mean, only 6 targets when Kirk threw the ball 41 times is just ridiculous. Where else are those going? Obviously, KJ Osborne scored a touchdown last week. Thielen scored a touchdown last week. They both had a combined 11 receptions. So,
Yeah, a combined 11 receptions between Osborne and Thielen. 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's where that was going that game.
yeah.
So this might be your only time to buy low on Jay Jettas. Go do it if you can. It's worth a shot.
2 first-round draft picks.
But yeah, I mean, maybe he was untradeable, but maybe at this point he is tradable in someone's eyes, whether it's LOC or otherwise. But everybody else is pretty mediocre.
I like that rhyme.
I mean, we essentially
Did you do that on purpose?
They're both, it just kind of rolled out.
Just say yes.
You're just a natural rapper.
Exactly.
We always
He
knew-
can
we
rhyme
always
anytime.
knew
It's
that,
always on
yeah.
the mind here. But, I mean, with this game, both the starting running backs went down with shoulder injuries. I mean, Madison and Williams, with Cook and Swift, if they're out next week, I mean, they've got to
They're
be
must
must
starts.
starts, right?
Yep. They're set it and forget it guys, especially with both of their offenses kind of running through or going through the running game.
And they're both very good when they're the starters and get a lot of volume.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Next game here, Ravens 37, Patriots 26. Lamar Jackson just
All hail
eating
Emperor
alive
Lamar.
defenses. 18 of 29 for 218 yards.
This dude's
and
MVP. He is MVP so
four
far.
passing touchdowns. One interception, 11 carries for 107 yards and one touchdown. 40.42 fantasy points. Currently QB1. This man's
by a lot.
This man's accounting for, I think I saw 85% of his team's offense, whether through the air or on the ground.
he's going to get paid so much
When
money.
he won MVP, he accounted for 64% of his team's offense, and he's almost 20 or over 20% of that now. So
You got to think defenses are going to start picking up on stuff and
maybe,
because it
Maybe.
bring that number down a little bit.
maybe.
You'd like to
Who,
hope.
who knows? But
Yeah, I would just say he's the clear front-running MVP
oh yeah,
right now.
Oh, by far.
Yes,
agree.
I don't think it's even close. I mean, he's not working with a whole lot. as
especially when you
well.
think like when you're
He has some
considering
serviceable
when you're
receivers,
thinking
and
about
that's it.
MVP voting, like they want the story, they want the guy who's representing himself, who's trying to get himself paid, trying to do well for him and his family, and doing all of this like under the assumption that if I go out and do what I'm doing right now, like that's a good story that you want your MVP winning. But
Yeah, apparently all he needs is his legs and Mark Andrews, and he's just fine.
Mark Andrews, 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 of those 4 touchdowns on 13 targets and almost 30 fantasy points. He's well on his way to another
13 targets as a tight end.
Just
oh
crazy.
my
well,
land.
Crazy.
well on his way to tight end 1 again.
On the other side, Mondre. Zach, does that have you feeling good in LOC? Mondre.
I hope. You never know with Bill Belichick what's going to happen. So, I mean, I had him on my bench. I was really considering starting him this week, but I assumed fucking Javonte against the 49ers at home, Monday Night Football. I was like, all right, this is his
Absolutely.
this is his
Definitely
breakout
throw in
game.
Javonte over Ramondre.
Especially against the Ravens. Like, the Ravens are in some sort of revenge tour after they were hurt with injuries last year and trying to show out.
I think the stat that sticks out the most for Ramondre to me is he averaged 6.1 yards per carry on 12 carries.
He did that last year too, and they just, for whatever reason, they treat him kind of like the Chiefs treat Clyde sometimes. When Clyde's averaging 6 yards a carry, we're just gonna drop back and throw the ball. But obviously,
And he had 4 receptions out of the backfield as well for almost 30 yards. Love to just tack that on there. I mean, he had barely over 20 points this week. He's getting running back 1 usage finally. I mean, he had more carries, he had more yards, and he had more receptions than Damian Harris. So if you've got Damian Harris, this is not lasting long. The dude's touchdown dependent like he always has been. Sell Damian Harris if it wasn't obvious already. Really, the only other stud from this game was Devontae Parker. He had 5 receptions, 156 yards. Finally, that training camp hype and buzz that he had before the season started is paying off for him. And I think this is maybe a flash in the pan. Jacoby Myers did not play in week 3. And really, the rest of the New England's tight ends, wide receivers are garbage. No Mac Jones. Stay away from this offense.
Who
Might even
is
be
their backup quarterback?
Brian Hoyer.
No way.
That might be the only
He's
reason
still
I
in the
do
league?
decide to start Ramondre Stevenson next week. Is
Just
they're
going
going
to
to
run the shit out of the ball.
They're going to hand the ball off 50 times next week.
That's a valid argument because starting a Patriots running back in fantasy is like playing Russian roulette. Like you just really, like you said to your point, Zach, you just have no idea what Bill Belichick, and especially with their, who are their offensive wizards they've got? Patricia and some other guy.
I always
who
thought
are
he was
splitting
Matt
game
Patricia,
calling decisions.
formerly defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's what I was
is
gonna
now
say.
the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I thought he was
What
a
the
defensive
fuck?
coordinator.
Doesn't
What?
make sense.
Bill's just out thinking us all.
New
We're
England's
stupid.
terrible.
He knows everything.
We'll move on to the next matchup. Let's try and pick up the pace here maybe a little bit. But Joe Burrow finally had a bounce back game. 270 yards passing,
He's
3
deleted
touchdowns,
social media.
25 fantasy points. He's still the quarterback 9 on the season. Tyler Boyd was the product of that good performance from Joe Burrow. Tyler Boyd, I mean, he's the third wide receiver there. He's going to get a couple games like this. 4 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Really efficient. He had that big
T. Higgins got
breakaway.
fucked on a touchdown.
Dude, he did. T. Higgins, that I don't understand how that wasn't called a touchdown. If that was called a touchdown on the field, it would have been a touchdown. It would have stood. So Teagan still had a decent game, 14 points. Jamar Chase found the end zone, saved his day. Still underwhelming for Jamar Chase, but he's the wide receiver 14 on the season. So maybe Jamar's not quite showing out like you thought he might. But Joe Burrow was struggling. I mean, Joe Burrow missed a lot of time in the offseason and preseason. So I think they're still trying to get their feet underneath
the
them.
Emperor's trying to find his groove. So
right.
Breece Hall finally had his first big showing as running back in the Jets offense. 8 carries for 39 yards on 4.9 yards per carry. Had 6 receptions, just how they used them in Iowa State.
Love that.
53
6
yards.
receptions. Oh.
Now the only thing you're wanting to look for is just some red zone usage there. Maybe get the 1 touchdown for the 20 points. But Breece Hall finally starting to get that love there.
He did drop a pass that I think would have had him a pretty solid touchdown. I don't remember it very well, but I saw someone talking about that. So there's a little bit of missing points there from Breece. And I mean, that usage out of the backfield is amazing. And I think he is finally slowly still at this point taking over that running back 1 workload. Like they're not using Michael Carter quite as much anymore. And I mean, for the people that think that you should downgrade all the fantasy options in New York with Zach Wilson coming back, you're crazy. Zach Wilson opens up this playbook so much more. He's able to get out of the pocket, run, make shit happen. So if Zach Wilson's knee's doing good, then Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, all these guys are going to still be good.
Yeah, they're going to eat. And you don't have Garrett Wilson highlighted here. We didn't really talk about him with the rookies, but 6 receptions, 60 yards on 10 targets. In his 3 games as a starter, 8 targets, 14 targets, 10 targets. So obviously him and Joe Flacco have a good thing going between the two of them.
He's been the first read.
Yeah, you hope that when Zach comes back that you still have that kind of connection there. Or maybe Elijah Moore finally starts to kind of come out of
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little worried about Elijah Moore. He still had 10 targets, but only 8.9 fantasy points. He's the wide receiver 56 on the year. A little worried about Elijah Moore. But I think it'll get better with Zach Wilson as long as he's healthy.
Yep.
And, I mean, Tyler motherfucking Conklin. If you don't know who this guy is, learn his name. 8 receptions, 84 yards on 8 targets, 16.4 fantasy points, and he's tied in 4 on the season. So Tyler Conklin, he's looking fantastic.
Next week, I want to do that seg we were talking about where we just look at position rankings and read off dudes where you're like, wait, you're at this spot on this list.
Mark it down.
He's one of them.
Mark it down.
Did we mention how I'm worried about Joe Mixon too? That's my last concern from this game. He's seeing a lot of volume, the volume you want to see. He had 12 carries, 3 receptions on 7 targets. He's averaging 2 yards a carry. And
their offensive line is garbage. They tried to upgrade it in the offseason, and maybe they're just not meshing yet, but
0 touchdowns.
Yeah, not meshing at all yet.
0 touchdowns.
Exactly. He needs to find the end zone, and Joe Mixon has not. I mean, CMC hasn't found the end zone yet. We'll talk about CMC, whether we're worried or not about him. But the Milfson returns week 4, so excited about the Jets. We'll see what happens there.
Moving on to the next game, Eagles and Commanders. Eagles won this game pretty easily, 24-8. Almost had a scoregami there, but Jalen Hurts, 22 of 35, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 carries, 20 yards, 27.6 fantasy points. QB3 continues to show that he's improving over last season. They went out, got him weapons, doing very well, and proving that he could be the long-term quarterback there in Philadelphia.
And that's something he's done since college. He gets better every single year, improves somewhere. It's almost like the Josh Allen type arc that he has.
He's a smart quarterback. He knows when to use his legs. He knows when he can manipulate the pocket. So very good things. I wish I could have pulled the trigger on trading for him in this offseason, but Miles Sanders kind of had an off day, 15 carries for 46 yards, only averaging 3 yards a carry. 5.4 fantasy points, RB23 right now, so might be time to maybe be worrying about Miles Sanders there.
Yeah, you should have been worried to start with, but yeah.
He was never on my radar.
Devontae Smith is finally starting to show that he can produce in this offense as well. He kind of took an off week 1.
The skinny Batman.
The skinny Batman.
Is that his
you
nickname?
You were all over that earlier.
That's what people were calling him on Twitter.
I don't understand that. Why is that?
The Eagles had a Batman cape on their sideline after a big play. A.J. Brown had it on after his touchdown.
That's their thing.
Yep. So he's the skinny Batman. He had 8 receptions, 169 yards, 1 touchdown on 12 targets, 30.9 fantasy
Could
points.
call him Robin.
He's a top 20 wide receiver currently, and some of those catches were just unreal. I think Devonta Smith, you got to find a way to get him in your roster. A.J. Brown was good yet again, 5 receptions, 85 yards, 1 touchdown on 10 targets, 19.5 fantasy points. He's a top 10 wide receiver. And
Carson Wentz looking like the booty juice we know he
finally
is. So
we knew it would wear off.
Yeah, that averaging 350 yards a game wasn't going to last, but 25 of 43 for 211 yards, 0 touchdowns, 6.6 fantasy points.
I wish I put his quarterback rating there, but I didn't.
But
the Eagles' defense, they put up 20 fantasy points this week. They've made
the
it on
Eagles'
the
defense
all-bench
is
team.
very good. It might be a defense that could be a set it and forget it type defense. So
Absolutely.
Not a whole lot to talk about with the Commanders' offense here. Kind of move on to the next game, unless there's anything you want to touch on.
I mean, Terry still had a decent day. Curtis Samuel still had a decent day. They're seeing almost 10 targets between the two. Dotson finally didn't do a whole lot. Logan Thomas and Dotson had just 2 receptions each.
I think
Dotson still had 8 targets.
Yeah,
so.
I think this is all you can just chalk up to the Eagles having a really good defense. Moving on to the next game.
Suck.
Well, we got a lot of bumps here. I can't wait for these.
Looking at this Saints and Panthers game, 14-22. We had a lot of really weird scoring
I will tolerate
games.
no Baker Mayfield slander.
Baker Mayfield looked like ass this week. 12 of 25
Silence!
for
Bum.
170 yards, 1 touchdown. He had a bum week, if you ask me. 60 of those yards came on
Chenault
one pass.
saved his day.
Yep, Laviska Chenault.
Oh, my God. Imagine if that play didn't happen. Oh, man. Baker
Mayfield gets talked about so much for someone who apparently sucks. This dude has never been in a good situation, but he's relevant.
You are
I
so
would like to ask a
brainwashed.
question. Are Baker Mayfield progressive commercials just no longer a thing?
You know, it's been a while that I think I've seen one.
Nick's brain's processing.
I mean,
Is he bad? Is that what that means, Nick?
okay, you know what? When he was with the Browns, he had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years, okay? Then he got hurt, and then they brought in a pedophile. How would you feel if they bring in a pedophile?
Probably not good.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't be
he's
comfortable.
Also not looking any better in Carolina.
But
It's Carolina.
Wouldn't progressive
This poor
just...
guy, he's never been given a fucking shot. You give Tua sucks ass for
Dude,
3
you are
years.
so brainwashed. You're wasting your breath talking about Baker Mayfield in this way.
You give Tua 3 years
You're wasting
of
your
sucking
breath.
ass, and then you put Jalen fucking Waddle and Tyreek Hill on his team, and now all of a sudden he's God's gift to football. Baker Mayfield, I will tolerate no slander.
But can't progressive just
No bias.
He's got a new stadium. That's his new home,
I
right?
know, it was
where's the insurance on his new home? And they're in
the
Carolina.
commercial was written for them, and
he's
they
got
just don't
that.
want any. I'm with Drake here, Nick. I think you're kind of
No, Baker's
talking
horrible.
Baker's
we thought
deductible is the shit.
we thought he would be the best quarterback DJ Moore's ever played with, but DJ Moore 1 reception, 2 yards on 4 targets.
Poor guy.
He's a wide receiver 59 on the season. Oof. I love DJ Moore, but Jesus Christ, Baker Mayfield has killed DJ Moore. And I think it's affecting CMC a little bit as well. CMC, no touchdown yet this year. He's still RB10. He's getting you all the volume you want, but still no touchdowns.
He's out here looking for his privilege, bro. I mean, he was privileged. He got hurt for 2 years. Now he's unprivileged.
Yeah,
and
so Baker
he's got a
had
deal.
Baker had 12 total completions. No player had more than 2 receptions.
Oh my!
Booty juice.
The Panthers are headed towards being one of the worst
And that
teams
includes
in the NFL
CMC.
by far. They're dipping right on down there into the Detroit Lions.
And then
territory
on the other
past
side of the
decade.
game,
Jameis had as many completions as Baker had attempts. 25 for 41 for 350 yards, a Jameis stat. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, another Jameis stat. So Alvin Kamara didn't look too hot. 15 carries for 61 yards. Might not still be healthy, but
Didn't he have a fumble as well?
I believe so.
I think he did.
So 6.3 fantasy points, RB54 right now. Might be time to kind of panic on that. The big story here in this game, we kind of touched on it earlier. Chris Olave with 9 receptions, 147 yards on 13 targets. Michael Thomas dealing with a little bit of an injury.
What? No way.
Jarvis Landry dealing with a little bit of an injury. So Chris Olave might be wide receiver 1 there with the pass-happy Saints.
It's Olave season. This next matchup is fun. I'm excited to talk about this here. Jaguars destroyed the Chargers on the road.
Money.
The first win on the road for the Jaguars in like a ton of games. I don't remember what it was. It was like 8 or 9 games on the road that they've had a losing streak. But Trevor Lawrence, man, 28 of 39, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 3 carries for 7 yards. He is a legit quarterback 1 for fantasy.
Boy, does he look good.
Doug Peterson, quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, no, I think so. But I would like to ask this question. Can we count winning at the LA Chargers Stadium as an away game?
No.
It's almost a neutral site.
It's almost like a neutral site, like a bowl game. But you got to give
the streak lives on.
You got to give the Jaguars credit, though. You're absolutely right. I mean, they blew them out. This was not a game really at any point. And yeah, you mentioned off the top there were a lot of injuries. Joey Bosa also left this game injured as well. So I mean, there's a laundry list of players who got hurt. But
I wish I bought low on T-Law in the offseason.
Wow,
he's quarterback 10 on the season, and I think he's going to stay there.
Yeah. I definitely agree, especially considering the Jaguars are going to have a pretty easy schedule just because of where they placed last year. They're playing all the other last-place teams in the league.
AFC South is boo-boo.
Yep, and the AFC South is boo-boo. A lot of big names here. James Robinson, 17 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Travis Etienne kind of had an off day, 13 carries for 45 yards, 3 receptions
hasn't had
for
an
30.
on day yet.
This is fair.
Yeah, he hasn't had that breakout. I think it's coming. But, I mean, James Robinson, just unbelievable. Coming back from that Achilles injury almost seemed impossible based on what we've seen in the past. Averaging 5.9 yards a carry in this game. He's the clear running back 1 in Jacksonville, unfortunately. And he's the running back 2 through 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
Imagine trading James Robinson away for a 3rd-round pick in rookie drafts.
I could not imagine.
Who did that?
Could not imagine.
Who did that?
Jacob
Morgan.
Oh, JT and company.
And you know who has James Robinson and left him on his bench this week? The London Bridge.
Oh, shit.
I think the London Bridge has 2 of the most egregious start-sit mistakes.
Yeah, I'm
London Bridge, your response.
Let's talk about
Put it in the comments.
We can even move on to another, you can kind of call it a comeback season, I guess. Christian Kirk. Everyone was talking shit on him, kind of setting that wide receiver, being like the first domino to fall. Wide receiver 6 right now. 6 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. So
Steady Eddie.
Christian Kirk being possibly being Trevor Lawrence's favorite target there in Jacksonville. We can kind of talk about how morbid the Chargers were.
Hold on. We got to talk about Zay Jones here too. Trevor Lawrence.
You love Zay
I
Jones.
think he can support 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers outside of Christian Kirk, and that other one's going to be Zay Jones. Zay Jones, he had 10 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. The dude looks good. He must be rostered, in my opinion. I would be curious to see what you guys think, especially when it is Dynasty. I mean, he's getting paid like $25 million. They gave him a decent contract. He's wide receiver 24 on the season. The dude got a decent bag.
Money.
He had 24.5 fantasy points. And Zay Jones, man, he's showing up. I don't think he's rostered in LOC. I might be wrong. Somebody look it up for me. But Zay Jones, man, he's looking real nice. He's not rostered in LOC. There's a lot of interesting waiver wire ads
it's gonna be
in
a
LOC.
frenzy.
Thank God I have Khalil Herbert, and he's not out there on the waiver wires for you motherfuckers. But yeah, Chargers, not good. Not good at all. I mean, Justin Herbert, he was hurt. He showed a lot of resilience in this game. He's still a good fantasy player. Hopefully he heals up quick and is 100% for the rest of the season. But, I mean, Austin Eckler, man. Austin Eckler. He saved the day with his 8 receptions, and he's going to continue.
Tell us, Empire.
He's going to continue to do that, but he had 4 carries for 5 yards.
Tell us about it, Empire.
It's better than 7 carries for no yards.
Like he's a top 15 running back still at this point, but Jesus Murphy, would I be worried about Eckler if I was an Eckler owner?
Empire, are you worried?
I mean, I'm not an owner of him in this league, so I don't
what?
have to worry about it. Plot twist, I have
I
Mixon
am
and
sorry,
McCaffrey.
listeners.
You're thinking
Dude,
of our 5-man keeper league.
Jared,
I do have
I thought the
Eckler.
Empire owned CMC and Eckler in every fantasy.
I wanted to
league
ask
that
you
he's
about
in.
that, Jared. So
What's up?
you've got CMC and Joe Mixon on your team. How is it that you have got no touchdowns from your top 2 running backs? How does that feel?
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. The fact that I'm 1-2 and my running backs haven't gotten me really any points at all. Like you said, like they've both been hovering around about 10, 12 points a week. I'm really hoping they can catch fire and my team can do the same based off that points. Because yeah, I'm not thrilled with either one of them right now. And my
Especially
backup to them is Etienne, who is not doing anything close to
ESPN.
what I thought he would do this year.
Your team is a lot of fun to write about when I'm doing fastest 2 minutes.
Yeah, so you're going to need to downgrade the whole Charger offense until we know Herbert's fully healthy. Mike Williams, 1 reception, 15 yards, 1 touchdown. He did get that touchdown on 6 targets, but not a very good performance from anybody there in L.A. And then move on to the Rams-Cardinals game. Let's just try and fly through this a bit quicker. We're taking way too long with this at the moment. But Matthew Stafford, not a good performance. Quarterback 21 on the season. Oof. Darrell Henderson, thought he was maybe that running back 1. Cam Akers is slowly taking that lead back role.
He's still there.
And, I mean, I'm really starting to get worried about Allen Robinson as well. He had 2 receptions for 23 yards on 5 targets. He dropped an easy touchdown, which was super frustrating. He's wide receiver 67 on the season.
Major oof there.
Yep. And I'm maybe a little worried about Kyler Murray. He's missing a lot of weapons. I didn't really list him as a dud here. I mean, he put up 12 points. You want Kyler to do better than that. But I'm maybe getting a little worried about James Conner. He had 13 carries, 39 yards, averaged 3 yards a carry, and had 3 receptions on 5 targets, only 8 points. He's the running back 28 on the season. He's not doing what he did last year. Surprise, surprise. He's not doing it. So the highlight from this game is Marquise Brown. Holy shit. 14 receptions. It seemed like he was getting every freaking target with 17 total targets, 140 yards, which I think is a career record for him, if I'm not mistaken. He really took advantage of no Rondale Moore, Hopkins, and A.J. Green, who left with an injury during the game. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 8 on the season. Glad he's on Lance Refrigeration. And then Greg Dortch. I want to talk about him real quick. He's not rostered. 9 receptions, 80 yards on 10 targets. I think he's playable in week 4 with no A.J. Green and most likely no Rondale Moore. We'll see what happens, but Greg Dortch is a starter for you if you need it in week 4. Beyond that, probably not.
Moving on here to the Falcons and Seahawks game. Seahawks beat the Falcons the Falcons beat the Seahawks 27-23. The big name here is Cordell Patterson, 17 carries, 141 yards, which was a career high for him. He had a touchdown, 1 reception, 12 yards, and 23.3 fantasy points.
That's crazy to me. 1 reception. He's known for his pass catching stuff. He's basically a wide receiver. At one point last year, you could put him in a wide receiver spot. He was a running back / wide receiver. And he does this with 1 reception.
Took him, 8-9 years, and he's finally found an offensive coordinator and a head coach that'll use him the right way.
Running back 5.
Currently running back 5. Good for Cordell Patterson, bad for Tyler Algier believers. Geno Smith actually had a pretty decent game.
Oh, baby. Geno.
32 of 44 passing attempts, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception, and almost 20 fantasy points. He's currently a top 20 QB, so definitely starting to get a little bit more used to that offense. Tyler Lockett had 9 receptions and 76 yards on 11 targets, and DK Metcalf had 5 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown on 12 targets. So
he was able to provide Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with solid fantasy output this week. We'll see if that continues.
It was the Falcons, so
Geno Smith is helping me with this Trey Lance injury, being my quarterback 2 here at the moment. So thank you, Geno. I just want to give you a shout out here, man. You did fantastic this week. There was a lot of third downs and shit where I was super nervous, and the dude was out here converted shit. He's had the best. I think he's got the best completion rate in the whole league. He did before the year started. He's got more touchdowns than Russell Wilson. He's got more completions than Russell Wilson. And I think he's a better quarterback so far this year.
so far
compared to Russell Wilson.
So
And Kyle Pitts and Drake London still had good games. They didn't really go crazy, but Kyle Pitts, maybe he's back a bit.
finally had more than 4 fantasy points. So big for Kyle Pitts, guys. But moving on to the next game, Packers and Buccaneers, kind of the battle of the decimated offenses here. Aaron Rodgers had a blog game at 27 for 35.
This game gave me AIDS. AIDS.
It was bad.
AIDS. AIDS positive.
Yeah, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, not good games, but Romeo Doubs, man. The dude was the wide receiver 1 there this week, and is he going to keep that role? I think that's the biggest question. 8 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown, his first career touchdown this week on 8 targets, had 20 fantasy points. Really like Romeo Doubs, whatever the fuck his last name is pronounced.
Yeah. And really the only other standout in this game was Russell Gage just taking advantage of both Julio, Evans, and Godwin out. So
yeah. And he was on Warboy's bench over here this week.
He was. My bench was popping this week.
I think everybody's bench was popping this week.
Fuck.
The real standout in this game was the Tampa Bay defense scoring 29 fantasy points.
Pillaging. Unreal.
But moving on to this next game, God, we have some horrible games here.
No, the week 3 slate sucked.
AIDS. More
49ers, Broncos.
Ugh.
Broncos won 11-10. I'm surprised that wasn't scoregami there, but Russell Wilson sucked. Javonte Williams sucked. Jerry Jeudy not doing well.
Melvin Gordon sucked.
Jimmy G didn't look too hot. No one in this game did very well except for Cortland Sutton. He had 8 receptions, 97 yards on 10 targets, almost 18 fantasy points. Don't need to talk about that game a whole lot.
Yeah, fuck Melvin Gordon stealing a touchdown from Javonte. I mean, not really, but I look at it that way. Javonte, add him to the mix in CMC list. No touchdowns yet.
I don't know why they don't use Javonte in the red zone, but I digress.
Terrible coaching staff.
Oh, you hit it right on the nail. I mean, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett knows where he's at, let alone how to coach an adequate football game. I mean, some of the decisions, your fans having to count down the play clock, like, if I'm an owner of a Broncos offensive player, which I am of multiple in our league, I am not optimistic for the rest of the season.
Did you see he had to hire somebody as like a head coach assistant to help him with gameplay during the games and game decisions and just keep him in the like if you got to hire somebody like that, dude, something's wrong.
Head coach.
And you mentioned it, Zach, but Jimmy G,
dude's in over his head.
Jimmy G was awful, terrible to watch. There was no reason the 49ers should have lost that game. Maybe there's a reason Trey Lance was their guy. That's all I'm gonna say.
I will. Something funny I saw on Twitter. I can't remember who posted this. If you can give them credit, I'm not taking advantage of this, but it was ranking NFL head coaches, and it said Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, 1A, 1B, and then number 2 through 1,000 was anyone who's played more than an hour of online Madden. And then it was like every other NFL coach because no one seems to know how to use timeouts. No one knows game clock management. No one knows play calling. It was just a really funny tweet that I thought applied to Nathaniel. Like and then it was like 1,000 feet of shit. And then Nathaniel Hackett was at the bottom. He's a horrible head coach. But we're here on a fantasy football podcast. Last game of the week. Also horrible game clock management, but Cowboys, Giants, Cowboys snuck.
What was this?
Cowboys snuck a victory.
Is Cooper Rush? Is he better than Dak Prescott?
On that good.
Is there a quarterback controversy going on?
Dude, I was watching last night, and I had this thought that when they have a backup QB in, like Cooper Rush, what they're really doing is running very scripted plays where this guy is going to be open, throw to this guy. If you watched him, he was always going to his first read, and sometimes that works.
I mean, if you know how to script the plays, then that's what should work. So, I mean, kudos to the Cowboys offense for being able to pull that out. CD finally had his breakout game for the season, 8 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. He did have a damn near dropped touchdown as well on that slant, or on that post across the middle. He had 22.7 fantasy points. He also had a pretty cool one-handed catch.
That was nice.
Saquon Barkley, someone's really happy about this breakout game as well. 14 carries, 81 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yes, sir.
He did break away for that 36-yard touchdown run. Also had 4 receptions and 45 yards, so they were using him in the screen game as well. He's probably your most, or the only weapon that you want to be using from the New York Giants. We said Tony, irrelevant. Kenny Golladay dropped every pass that was thrown his way.
Poor Sterling
And Sterling Shepard
Rip.
was eaten by the turf monster that is MetLife Stadium. So,
And from this game, too, Tony Pollard averaged 8.1 per carry.
I would
Fantastic. Tony Pollard, he's better than Zeke. Zeke's touchdown dependent. He always has been this for the past few years.
Is Zeke even like relevant other than a flex start?
No, Doritos. I hurt.
so yeah.
I hurt.
Well, that's finally ends our matchups. We maybe need to make this a little bit quicker of a process moving forward, but it's fun to dig into these games and really go through it, and it really gives you a good idea. And if we're through 3 weeks, you're able to pull some stuff from these games and kind of make a accurate assessment for the rest of the season. I mean, we'll see if stuff sticks. It's only been 3 weeks, but at least there's something for us to finally look at and gauge for the rest of the season. So, I mean, you need to be looking about possibly selling high, buying low on guys. It's always something you need to be doing, especially in Dynasty. But the all-bench team, I mean, we've pretty much covered a lot of them here already, but it was just that kind of week in fantasy football. A lot of people on your bench went crazy, and some of them are going to be vaulted right into your starting lineup next week. But we can talk about Nick's picks.
Nick, fly through these.
We need
Who you got?
we need your record currently on the season. How'd you do last week?
All right. Just
And
a
then
quick
we need your ones for the upcoming week, and we'll go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah, just a quick rundown. Reviewing last week, I picked the War Boys over the Sunshine Squad. That was incorrect.
Shocking.
I picked the Ramondre Raptors over Lance Refrigeration. That was incorrect. JT
Hey,
Company
yo.
over Team Graham Godfrey 1, now known as the Jamario Bros. That was also incorrect. RDC 22 over Arrowhead Choppers. Easy, right, money. And the Bridge over the Empire. I was right. That one was close, but I was right. So that puts me at 2-3 on the week. That moves me to 7-8 on the year. It's not bad. It's not good.
Not
It's not
horrible.
terrible. We'll get there. We will rebuild.
But go ahead and give us your picks for this week.
Yeah, so I will take the War Boys facing off against the Galactic Empire.
You're gonna get your first
This
win
is
here,
easy.
bud.
Absolutely,
You just gotta
absolutely. It's easy. War Boys over Galactic Empire. Lance Refrigeration is going to beat JT and Company. JT and Company is being downgraded from future champion, potential champion this year. You are being downgraded. Sunshine Squad will defeat Team RDC 22. I think the Sunshine Squad is a riser. I think Team RDC 22 is frisky. I think they're there. They heard the shade we were throwing, and they're there, but Sunshine Squad takes it here. Ramondre Raptors playing Arrowhead Choppers. I mean, come on. Ramondre Raptors. And Jamario Bros. And this is where I'm going to put my game of the week. Jamario Bros. Over the London Bridge. And Jamario Bros. Your new projected champion. Everyone pause the pod.
Pause it.
Go pull up Jamario Bros. Roster. Loaded. Absolutely loaded. You're talking about a sleeping giant here. Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Jamar, Mark Andrews, CD, etc. Go take a look at that roster.
Yeah,
They're
don't-
your new projected champions.
Yeah, don't pick the last undefeated team to win, please. Thank you.
No, you were up for debate as team of the week there, taking on JT Company, but I'm going to throw it to Jamario Bros. Sleeping Giant.
Well, there you have it. Nick's picks are in. Go ahead and give him some shit for that. But thank you all so much for listening to this long-winded podcast. We'll be sure and trying to figure out some stuff to make it a little bit shorter for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We still haven't gotten any comments on any of our videos. Still no trash talking in the group chat.
JT and Company threw a comment out on the last video. Thank you, JT and Company.
Thank you very much. I didn't see that. I didn't get the
Shout
notification.
out.
But thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you give us a like, share, and subscribe on the YouTubes. And we'll catch you next time on the DNZ Fantasy Football Podcast.